And welcome to this episode of the podcast with myself, Ruth, from Top Schools. And I have a very special guest with me today. Welcome to Rosie McCall, head of Brighton Girls GDST school in Brighton. Welcome, Rosie.
Thank you very much for having me.
So thank you. Welcome to Hong Kong. I know that you've been here for a few days and hope that you're enjoying it here. So tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, if you don't mind.
So I am obviously, as you said, the head of Brighton Girls School, which is a wonderful place to be a head in the heart of Brighton. A bit about myself, I was originally an English teacher, so I did an English degree. I don't know how much detail you want, but I grew up in Yorkshire, did an English degree, did an MPhil in Irish literature, and really enjoyed studying English and then teaching English for most of my career. I've been a head for the last 5 years. Right. Before that, I was a deputy head at Wellington College in Berkshire and a deputy head at Berkhamsted School.
What was it that drew you into teaching?
That's an interesting question. My parents were both teachers, so I guess we had a really good insight into the world of education and always had a connection with fellow teachers. For me, it was really about my subject to begin with, because I absolutely loved studying English literature. And when you start to look at careers that you can follow, when I decided that pursuing a career where I could share my passion for my subject would be really rewarding. And that was the starting point for me. But as soon as I got into the classroom, as soon as I got into schools, obviously all of the other things that come with educating young people and all the joys of that keeps you on your toes. It's always good fun. No 2 days are the same.
Right. And you obviously love it. In the previous schools that you were working in, were they co-ed or were they also girls only?
I started out in Berkhamsted School, and that was a diamond school, so quite an interesting structure.
You should explain what that
is. With a co-ed prep school, girls and boys educated separately through to the end of GCSE years, and then a co-ed sixth form. So that was a really great insight into some of the sort of gender questions that might come up later in our conversation. But I was always a pastoral lead for the girls' school, so I started off in a girls' house. I was a deputy head of that school as well, so I ended up overseeing the pastoral care of the girls, and then taught all the way through boys and girls and the co-ed sixth form. That was really interesting because you got a sense of some of those limitations that are imposed on girls when they come to make their A-level choices, and suddenly they're going into that co-ed mixed world, and some of the things you might have heard about around girls not choosing STEM subjects or not choosing coding. We started to see some of those sort of imbalances. Then I taught in Wellington College, which was co-ed, and I again saw the benefits of that. There are benefits to all of these different models, but again, seeing girls maybe not speaking up as much in the classroom, that sort of thing. When I became a head, I really wanted to be a head of a girls' school to make the most impact on young women and, you know, empowering them for their futures.
So we obviously need to talk about or GDST. Can you just explain what that is for a moment?
Yeah, so Brighton Girls is one of the founding schools in the Girls' Day School Trust. The Girls' Day School Trust was founded in 1876 or the 1870s. My school in 1876. So we've just passed 100 years of celebrating and educating girls. The trust was founded by 4 pioneers in girls' education, and essentially they set out to give girls the same educational opportunities as their male counterparts. And the idea behind the GDST was to meet as many girls as possible. So all of the schools are really grounded. They're all usually in the centre of their cities and their communities. So wonderful places where you fuse with your local community, and a hugely rich history of brilliant women. So if you meet women around the world in a position of power or authority or just doing something amazing, there's a very strong chance that they'll have come from a GDST school.
And presumably at that time there were stark inequalities in education for boys and girls, and the GDST at that time. I mean, what's the size of it now in comparison to when it started and throughout the decades?
Yeah, so it started with a few schools, and now we're a family of 26 schools across the UK. So a lot of them are, if you look at the name Wimbledon High School, Putney High School, these are all the GDST schools. My school changed its name to Brighton Girls, but it was formerly called Brighton and Hove High. So we have a lot of alumni that remember those days. But we have a school in Cardiff, a school in Newcastle, a school in Nottingham.
In Bath.
Exactly, Royal House School Bath, our only boarding school. The benefits today of being in the GDST are that you have 26 schools, 24 of them are independent girls' schools, then we have 2 state girls' schools. But as heads, we all work together, we all collaborate. all of our teachers work together. For the students, it's hugely beneficial because you get opportunities all the way through your school career, whether it's going to a coding day where you're meeting students from all of those different schools, or whether it's in the sixth form applying to Oxford or applying to medicine. You'll have your school support, and then you'll have the GDST amazing power of that amazing network to see you through. So if you're a medic, for example, you'll be on a medic pathway. You'll have practice interviews. You'll be speaking to people who are going through that same process. And beyond that, an amazing, really powerful thing is the alumni network, which we estimate to be 100,000 women strong, again, all across the globe. And increasingly now we are drawing on that board to fuel our careers, programmes in school, to provide mentoring for our students. For me as a head, I like nothing more than having our alumni come back into the school, and because you're seeing the sort of finished product and you're seeing the confidence that a GDST education's given you, and they are feeding back into and inspiring the next generation, which is really powerful.
Did you go to girls' school?
I didn't go to a girls' school. I think I would have done if I'd had the opportunity.
Right.
But
I did.
Yeah.
And we had that chat earlier. And so obviously those times were different times, and going to a girls' school in 2024. What are some of the distinct benefits or advantages of a girls-only environment?
Yeah, since you alluded to your experience, things have changed a lot, I think, and certainly my mission as head of Brighton Girls is I talk about redefining girls' education. So some of the sort of negative stereotypes that people attach to girls' schools, academic hothousing or friendship problems or whatever, we try to challenge all of those things. So if you walked into my school, I would hope you would feel it would be maybe very different from what you might have experienced. A really good example of that is we have, for example, a skateboarding scholarship at Brighton. For me, I think instead of the jolly hockey sticks approach of the past, like we still play hockey, we're still really good at hockey, we love netball, but we also have a skateboarding scholarship because girls need something different. Not everybody loves team sports. Skateboarding is something that's amazing for confidence building. Some of them love the aesthetic around it, so they do artwork, they get to learn how to care for the skateboard. It's very different. So yeah, that's just one example of how things might have changed.
Let's get back to academics, and we should clarify also the curriculum. You're in England, so you follow the English national curriculum, GCSEs and then A-levels. But in terms of the way girls learn differently, because I've had conversations with boys' schools about this as well. When I was considering a school for my son, I considered a few boys-only schools, and they're very keen advocates that boys and girls learn differently. So would you agree with that?
So I would agree with that, again, based on experience. And I think that if there's one message I'd like people to take away from this about girls' schools is it's not that girls and boys have different brains. It's not that they have different abilities at all. It's really, for me, the girls' environment, and it's probably the same that you hear in the boys' schools, but it's about creating the ideal environment for them to thrive. And for girls, it's all around making sure there's time and space for them to have a voice, for them to feel safe and confident in speaking up. And I think in a co-ed environment, it's often the case that boys, for whatever reason, it might be because they need, they might need more attention, there might be more discipline problems. These are some things you do hear, that they detract the time that can be spent on a girl in terms of what she needs. A GDST or a Brighton classroom, if you walk in, you'd hopefully see every single student in there willing to have a voice, willing to speak up, because they feel safe, they feel confident. There's nothing standing in their way from that. Another thing that might be significant is girls are naturally really supportive of each other and really great at collaboration. And again, there are some boys that are brilliant at collaboration, but it might not be their natural style, certainly not in the younger years. In a girls' school, you can create activities where naturally they learn that by working together, they can get the best out of themselves as well.
I'm just trying to understand, how much of it is trying to redefine what society, and it's changed so much in recent years, but obviously we all have, there are stereotypes about what girls are good at and maybe what they're less good at. And so how much of what you do in your school is about redefining those gender stereotypes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's all about that. So stepping into the school, you a girl would walk in and nothing will be off limits, nothing will be affected by a gender stereotype in our school, because that's the point, and that's the point about getting all of those great alumni back. There are people in every single walk of life who are top of their field and doing amazing things, all coming back and telling you that they've had a very squiggly career, as somebody came to my school on Monday and described it. So I think it's about just that argument taken off the table in a way, because everything we do from 8:30 in the morning till they leave at 5 is saying to them, you can do anything if you want to go. And one of the women that was one of the first students in Brighton, Louisa Martindale, she was in our school in the 1870s, 80s. Her mum was a suffragist, moved to Brighton just to go to this GDST school. She went on to be one of the first GPs in the city. The hospital is now named after her, the new wing of the Brighton Hospital, the Royal Sussex Hospital. And so everywhere the girls look, there are just examples. So in a way, we don't have to come in and deliberately try to take away those stereotypes, because they're just almost not applicable by default, because everything we're doing in school is conveying the message, you can do anything, you can be anything, there's nothing to limit you. Most of my A-level students, 75% of A-level students take at least one STEM subject, for example. There's all of those statistics around girls that takes physics, girls that take computer science, they're just not relevant in a way. And we do find in girls' schools that those statistics are very different when you look at the uptake in things like physics and computer science.
That leads us very nicely into, so STEM or STEAM, again, it wasn't really something that we talked about even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned that you've got A-level subjects in your school which might not be available in other schools. Can you?
Not necessarily not available in other schools. Just, I guess I think I was trying to say that more girls would take those options. Yeah. So our A-level subjects, we follow traditional A-level curriculum. So all of the subjects you would expect are there. But we also have things like the GDST Space Tech Diploma. So that was something that came out of one of our sister schools in Sutton. And that is an advanced diploma where the students work in partnership with NASA. So again, this is the power of the GDST network, that if you have a brilliant teacher in one school that has an idea and a passion, we can upscale it, and there's some amazing partnerships. So we have, so we do a traditional A-level curriculum, but what we find is that there's no sense of girls making choices based on their gender. I guess that's why.
I would really hope that's not existing in co-ed schools these days,
but
particularly in independent schools. But do you think it is?
Well, statistically it is.
Yes.
So statistically, there's a higher chance. I think it's a girl is 3 times more likely to take a STEM subject in a single-sex school. So that's statistically. Now, of course, in any co-ed school, of course you find girls taking STEM subjects and going on to Oxford, Cambridge, or going into engineering, whatever. But statistically, it does seem that being in a single-sex environment means they're more likely to do that, which does raise the question of what stereotypes and barriers are being placed around us all inadvertently. Well, we know they're all there. We know we're all affected by unconscious bias the whole time.
Interesting. And actually that leads me to ask you about the parents' involvement, because I'm a firm believer that actually parenting is more of an influence, it's a stronger influence than school, because for lots of different reasons. But so how much involvement and how much communication, conversations do you have with parents even before they enroll in the school? Are there certain characteristics that you're looking for in families?
Yeah, I guess especially my vision's all about community and is all around, I really believe that, as you just said, that it takes much more than a school to raise a child. There's that phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. My take on that is, what would it look like if we involved a whole city? For me, if you come to my school, you are being educated by teachers in the classroom, by your parents, by that relationship, but also by the city of Brighton and Hove and the business opportunities that are there and the people that we bring in to influence you all of the time. So absolutely, we're looking for parents and families who are really going to buy into that ethos. We have something called the Hive Society, which is something that it's our word to describe all of the extra talks, lectures, bringing parents in. We have visiting artists in school, so their artwork is around our school and then they deliver workshops. So we are about a complete city fusion. And in that sense, the parents and the questions we might ask them would be around how much they're willing to buy into that. And it's really not the case that it's just put your children in the school and then see how they come out the other end. It's always got to be a partnership.
And do you ask parents why they're particularly choosing a girls' school? Do you have, presumably you must have some families that also have sons, and yet they're choosing a girls-only school for their daughters?
Yeah, some parents come and they're just looking for the best school. And again, it might be, it just so happens that we are the best school for them. We happen to be a girls' school, and others might be coming for that girls only. But certainly the way that I pitch it when I'm talking to parents is, you know, I always advocate just come and look at the school, speak to the girls, talk to them about how they feel being in the environment. And a lot of it is around that. So sometimes they do come looking specifically. Sometimes you get girls actually at the age of 11 saying, actually, boys are getting quite annoying now. I have heard that. I have heard that a lot of times from 11-year-old girls.
Doesn't stop when they're 12 or 13 either.
Yeah, and some of them say, I really love hanging out with boys, but they are becoming quite annoying, and that is really interesting.
Actually,
because
my daughter told me that. She went to a co-ed school, and obviously house is girls only, but lessons, the boys are annoying.
Exactly. So it's really interesting for me hearing that, because obviously as a head, I feel like I'm selling my school a lot, and obviously I've got to, I do believe in it, but when you hear it from the 11-year-olds, and actually if you break that down, what they're saying is what I said at the start, that how much time is being wasted by these boys, what are they doing in the classroom that is annoying, and how much time is that taking away from a girl who wants to have a voice. Obviously, there's another side to it where you're
Well, I was going to say,
together.
what would a head of a co-ed school say in defence of that? What would they say that boys are bringing to the party in terms of a mixed classroom?
Yeah, so they would say boys are bringing great modelling in terms of risk-taking, in terms of speaking up. So that's absolutely fine, as long as they're not misbehaving, and that's their way of speaking up and being loud. I would argue that in a girls' school, again, we're modelling that all the time for each individual. And if you think about the number of different personality types there are in the world for both boys and girls, the ideal classroom is one that really caters for for everybody. So whether you prefer to be quiet and just sit and listen and take notes, and that's your learning style, that's fine, or whether you prefer to be vocal, but certainly I guess what I always say is we've only got them in school for sort of 8 hours a day. And you're never going to get the perfect school for every individual. So how can we make sure that as many things as possible are creating the right conditions? And I think that's what I really believe in. So in a girls' school, you've got a much higher chance of creating an environment where all of your students are happy and content and feeling happy with themselves. If you've got one girl feeling self-conscious about her body or whatever it is that accentuated by having boys in the room? And if we remove that one kind of concern and worry, do we get closer to creating an ideal environment? So I think any of these conversations nobody has the perfect solution, because what we can never do is absolutely tailor every minute of every day to each person. But it's being in an environment where you've got the highest chance of making someone feel comfortable, because confidence is the absolutely key thing. That's the other thing that I really believe in. It doesn't matter how many A stars you've got, how many grade 9s, if you're not confident in yourself, if you don't know who you are, if you can't say this is me and this is what I need in life or want in life, then all of those grades are irrelevant.
You're in Hong Kong now, so I've been in Hong Kong for 30 years, and we know there are certain girls' schools in the UK which are very popular, and I've seen some sad stories where the girls are actually coming back. We call them boomerangs because they're sent there by their parents. It's not necessarily their choice, and they are academic hothouses, and it just doesn't suit them. And it's actually quite sad, some of the repercussions. Confidence, I couldn't 100 million %. So my daughter's just finished school. I mean, she went to a co-ed school, but confidence is everything. I'd like to hear more from you on that, really, because as a parent, I do believe that's everything.
Yeah, for me, confidence, some people think confidence is about, is my daughter going to be confident enough to take the lead role in the play and that sort of thing. It's not about that. Confidence is about, are you able to clearly articulate who you are as a person? If you can get to that point, and it doesn't happen overnight, obviously, but you're more likely to make the right choices for you. So there's the sad stories for me are where a child has been in a school and they just haven't had the time to think or find themselves, discover themselves. Before they know it, they're being a medic because that's what was expected of them, because that was what was most academically aspirational or whatever reason it is. And before they know it, they're in a career that might not suit them. and you've only got one life.
Yeah.
So confidence for me is around, that's what I say about creating a school where there's time and space to really believe in yourself. But having said that, I do believe as well everyone needs to have the ability to speak up. So we talk a lot about introverts in my school and extroverts, and I've done a lot of work around quiet power and those kind of things. And again, it's another stereotype that is attached to some girls.
What's
about
quiet power?
So the Susan Cain revolution in terms of the introvert
familiar.
revolution. So the idea that the world is created for extroverts, and that as an introvert you're misunderstood, or you might deem yourself to be lacking in confidence, when in fact you're just like, actually I'm just a quiet person, and I need to be in an environment that is not everyone talking all the time, and therefore you're going to make a career choice based on that. Right. But again, it's just
makes sense.
Another thing around knowing yourself and being confident enough to say. But I do feel it's important that every girl, even if she's an introvert, even if she's a quieter person, has the opportunity to learn how to speak and project and tell her story. And that's another thing I'm really passionate about. And again, in a girls' school, you can create mini communities and opportunities where that skill can be built up. We have a house system, as a lot of schools in the UK do. That gives you a chance to maybe do a talk to your tutor group or to your house before speaking to the whole assembly or the whole school. Yeah, the confidence piece is key, because it will encourage you to make the right choices. It will allow you to find your voice and not be afraid to use it. Yeah.
I like that definition of confidence, actually. It's just about knowing who you are and being true to that and being authentic. Yeah, that's a really good definition.
One of our school, we have 2 school values, are very simple: to be kind and to be bold. So I always say to the students, if you can combine kindness and courage, that's when you can you can start changing the world for the better and start making amazing things happen. And kindness, we always say to the students, it's not about going around the school picking up litter or those kind of things. It starts with yourself. So you need to be kind to yourself first, and also then kind to others, and then kind to the environment. But kindness to yourself is so key, because we all make mistakes. We're not all good at everything. Being able to acknowledge that and be kind to yourself in that way is really important. And that's the thing I want most for our students as they leave the school, that they are able to say, yeah, okay, I might have messed up there, or that isn't my strengths, but that's okay because I've got these other strengths.
Because you're so right that extroverts are seen to be potentially like more successful, or you need to be an extrovert in order to succeed. And you are an independent girls' school, and the academic success is obviously crucial.
Yeah.
And it's crucial for when parents are deciding to send their children to your school. But how do you balance this, maintaining a girl's confidence, especially if she's slightly more introverted, with academic success? And what I'm amazed that when I went to university, we weren't expected to get 4 A stars or 3 A's. And it's nuts that the expectations are so high. But how do you maintain confidence when these expectations are so high?
Yeah, I guess my question is, who's setting the expectation?
Well,
because the world is changing, and if we're doing our job right in schools, we shouldn't be conveying the message that everyone needs to get 4 A stars, because they don't. But
that's the university entrance requirements for a lot of them.
Not for a lot of them. No, it's not. It's because I've got students that go out and set up their own business. So we've got everything. So, for example, I'll illustrate this with a story actually. So a couple of years ago, we had 2 students in year 13, both studied STEM subjects: physics, chemistry, maths, and double maths. They were both called Phoebe, which is why it makes a good story. They did both happen to get their 4 A stars, but that is not the point of the story. One went to Cambridge to do engineering, because a good school should take a bright student who's got an absolute skill and passion and help her on that path. The other Phoebe took her 4 A stars in STEM subjects and went off to the Rambert School of Ballet and Contemporary Dance, because while she was at school, she was dancing in the national youth dance companies, dancing at school, leading dance shows, building all of that confidence. I always say the mark of a good school is not how many people go to Russell Group, how many people go to Oxbridge, but how many different pathways do they follow. And not all, and again, that is why, I'm going to say it again, having your former students come back to talk to you. We've got this amazing former head girl that comes back and talks to our students, and she tells a story of how what she loved about our school was the brilliant time she had there, but when she got her A-level results, she had slightly messed up, hadn't gone to plan. She didn't make her first offer, but the teachers very quickly picked her up on the day, scooped her up, supported her, got her onto another course, and she's now incredibly successful. She's been a lawyer, she's been a women's rights lawyer, she's now working in politics. She's on a meteoric rise because she is the most confident person. So I do feel need to challenge those. Of course I know what you're saying, because people look at the school and they look at the results, but my advice to anybody is absolutely look at the results. They tell the story, but maybe also look at the spread of university destinations and look at the spread of different courses, because if everybody's going to the same place or everybody's doing the same thing, or indeed if everyone's getting the same grade, that is not a diverse community. It's not a school that is necessarily going to suit your daughter. Now, it might be that your daughter, for her, academics are everything, but as long as she knows that academics are not the be all and end all, they're just a means to an end, and that actually it's more about, if your journey through academia is to discover what you absolutely love so that you're going to make the right career choice, then great, go and get your 4 A stars. That's a brilliant passport to have, but there are other passports you can have in your pocket. For example, you could be on the Model UN leading a talk, you could be doing work experience, you could be, we've got a brilliant scheme with one of Brighton's most successful startups, Bird and Blend Tea. So we work with them, and our students have blended their own tea, infused with our values, kind and bold. We have chai to be kind and bold and gold. And then they sell the tea. They're learning about business skills. They learn that there are some brilliant, happen to be women actually in Brighton who set up in a city where there were lots of startups in Brighton. This is one of the most successful exports. So we work with them, and that's another opportunity. It's not an A-level certificate to go with it, but there's a lot of experience that goes with it.
No, I absolutely 100% agree with you. It's just that a lot of the parents that will be watching, listening, and the parents that we meet every day, I'm sure you do, unfortunately, they are defining success in a very narrow way. And the universities, the UK universities still do look at grades more than anything else. I find that university system a little bit restrictive.
Yeah, they do, but they don't all require the 4A. That's the that's the difference. And there are so many brilliant courses out there. Degree apprenticeships now are becoming more popular.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see that.
Yeah.
And I think in the next 5-10 years they'll take off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the question you asked earlier about when we're talking to parents, the people we do need to educate are the parents.
Yes.
I really do believe that. And that's why we're in such a position of, we have such responsibility in schools, because we are all shaped by our parents. We can be shaped in terms of our careers, because you develop this view of that is the world, that's the world view as doctor, medic, teacher. I'm quite a good example. My parents were both teachers. So it's so important in schools that we're just exposing our students to so many different pathways. We ran a careers day last week at Brighton where we had 60 different careers represented, the whole school just going around learning about, we had people in fashion, people in TV, everything, finance. So it's a key part of education at the moment, and actually the independent schools inspectorate has changed significantly in the last few years, and that idea of preparing people for the future, for the world, has become much more important.
That cliche for a world that we don't know
exactly
what it will look like. No, it's educating the parents 100%. But that's why the admissions process is so important, which I asked you earlier. What sort of conversations are you having with parents when they're exploring the school? And what are some of the, just to go back to that, because if parents are interested in contacting you, we'll leave your contact details. But what are some of the really good questions that parents can ask you when they're trying to find out about the school?
That's a good question. So firstly, as I said, always go and visit the school and just sense the feel. Speaking to the students is absolutely key. In terms of questions for the head or staff in the school, I would ask things like, how many opportunities are there for pupil voice? Like, how does the school listen to students? Something that I'm really keen to promote in my school, and I think it's key in all schools, is how easily can children report something when things go wrong or when they're unhappy. What are the different mechanisms for that? And just ask those kind of questions, because as I said, a school's not going to get it right 100% of the time for 100% of the students in the school. But what we do try and do is create an environment where everybody can be comfortable speaking to somebody, speaking up, whatever it is. So that's quite a good question to ask, or the question could be phrased differently. What happens when things go wrong? So say, for example, my daughter's not happy. What would you do in this kind of scenario or that kind of scenario? And just make sure that support is there, but in more than that, the openness of the school, and to admit that girls do fall out, by the way.
Yes.
If you've got daughters and you're listening to this, you will know that between the age of 11 and 16, maybe 11 and 14, they're going to change their friendship groups quite often. You're very lucky if that's not the case. It's not the case for everybody, but in a co-ed school or a girls' school, that will happen. So asking how schools manage that, or how they communicate that, or help the girls navigate their way through it, they're the good questions to ask.
One of the questions I get asked quite a lot are, I want a school that doesn't have any bullying, right? Can you recommend a school that doesn't have any bullying? The better question to ask is, how does a school manage it when it happens? Because it will.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And you would be happy to share that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And bullying is an interesting one, because you can look at the dictionary definition of bullying, or you can't, no one can say really what that looks like. So bullying, it might be that two friends are falling out, or it might be that a friendship group's broken up, and that is deemed as bullying because the others don't want to include her. But actually, these are just girls managing relationships, and without the skills, because we don't acquire those till later. So yeah, it's a really good question to ask. But certainly at my school, we just have so many different channels of reporting, and we try to make really sure that we are always tapping into what's really happening on the ground in the school. So it's not about, okay, let's see what the school counsellor is saying. That's just one avenue. We have anonymous reporting systems. Anybody can just anonymously report anything, and it could be somebody said something in the lunch queue, and it might be totally minor, but we can follow it up in whatever way we see fit. Every Tuesday we have people focus groups. So every single Tuesday, any member of my senior leadership team can choose a topic, or my governors indeed choose a topic, and they sit in front of a randomly selected group of students, and then just say, tell us about homework, how much homework are you getting, or tell us about what happens if you've got a friendship issue, whatever it is. So we try and make sure, again, another way of building that confidence is that the girls know that they can make a difference. And if we're not able to change things in the way they want, we'll always explain to them why, but as long as they've had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We touched on friendships and relationships is so important, and going back to the confidence issue as well, but we know that girls can be mean. Do you have any sort of programs, or what have you seen, just from sharing from your experience, how do you manage that?
So the first thing, and I have got over 20 years experience of this. The first thing is just be really honest, as I've just done there with parents, to say, you will experience friendship problems. It's highly likely, and just be prepared for it, and this is what can happen. And don't be shocked if your daughter comes home and reports something, because it will never be the full truth. Again, educating parents in this is really key. But you use the word mean, and again, that...
Just from the film.
Just from the film, no, exactly. And that's out there, and that is a stereotype that's out there. But there are very few people in the world that are actually mean. So the way that I like to talk about it is that really what we're talking about is girls making poor choices and making the wrong decision in a situation that's very complex. So I'll give you an example of near the start of my career, when I first became a head of house, I had a student and a parent that came to me, and they said, my daughter, two girls walked up to her in the dining room and told her that she was being relegated essentially from best friend down to, they would be happy to talk to her. And I was young at the time, and I was thinking, this is terrible. How could that is mean. How can that happen? But the more that I've experienced the way that girls work, I now understand, and this is what parents need to understand and what girls need to understand, that, okay, it's me, that is on the surface mean behaviour, but actually what it's probably happening is something quite complex is going on in that friendship group. And whereas as adults, we might just gradually move apart from somebody, or just realise that you're becoming very different. Sometimes girls make the wrong choice in trying to solve a problem. But to us on the outside, you feel, how can this school allow this mean behaviour? But it's really about learning how to manage relationships. Yeah, I've got an example from my own childhood actually, when I was moving schools aged 10 to 11. And I just have this really vivid memory of going for the taster day at my middle school as it was in Yorkshire, and walking across the park with my really good friend at the time and having no issues with that friend. But I just said to her, you do realise that I'm going to want to make new friends. Now, the fact that I remember that, I think must mean there was quite a significant fallout, because I don't remember much more that happened. But again, I didn't want to lose that friend, but I probably was just thinking to myself, I would also quite like to make new friends, and maybe as my 10-year-old self was worried that having, that's an example, isn't it, of how something might appear to be unkind, but it doesn't have any unkind intentions behind it. And in my school as well, just to reassure parents, I said there are, in the rare occasion where a student is repeatedly unkind, then we manage that down with according to our
well, it's one of your core values. Be kind.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there isn't a place for repeated unkindness in my school, and we manage that obviously very differently.
I'm also interested to know how you manage. Obviously, being a teenage girl today is complicated. I'm sure being a teenage boy is also complicated. Over-sexualization of young girls and social media and all of that. I'm sure you've got some stories. How do you manage that?
Yeah, mobile phones, I've got a lot to answer for.
Haven't they?
And it's really upsetting when you see the sort of correlation between the rise in mental health issues and the advent of the smartphone.
Yep.
It's so depressing because we can't now go back from that.
Can't we? I mean, our schools are actually disallowing phones now.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
We've done that for 5 years, but that doesn't help at home. So this is the problem. In our school, we don't allow girls to have their phone. They're actually taken in at the start of the day. The older ones, we let them have their phones, but they're not supposed to be visible. But that is just part of their day. This is the trouble. So if they then go home and sit on their phone all night, they are being exposed to lots and lots of negative content. And it's really scary. It's properly scary. I would encourage all parents to make sure whatever you do, that you have the ability to check your daughter's phone, check the messages she's sending, check the content she's watching, because girls, there's a strong chance they're going to be served negative content around self-harm, suicide, whatever. And we all know it happens very quickly. The algorithms kind of ensnare you very quickly. Obviously in schools, we all try and make sure there's a lot of education around it. We do restrict their use. We do promote positive digital footprints, all of those kind of things. And we also like to just keep them really busy to make sure that they understand that by engaging with real people, they are going to be, their happiness levels just rise. One of the things that we're doing, because we're all through school, so we start at reception all the way through to 18, is we are making sure our youngest students have a whole day out of school in the fresh air every single week. So our pre-prep students, we have forest school, we have beach school, because we're in Brighton, but we want them to understand that there are huge wellbeing benefits just being outdoors, being out in the fresh air. And we need to get them early to make sure they're building those really good habits. Yeah, it's a hard one for schools to manage and deal with.
That comes under the general sort of well-being areas. That's another conversation for another time.
Yeah.
And I know we're almost running out of time, but you did mention, obviously, you're a Girls' Day School Trust, but you have a homestay programme. So just quickly, if you could just mention.
Yes, as I said, we're a family of 26 schools, and we have one boarding school, which is the Royal High School in Bath.
That's up the road from me.
And the other schools are all day schools. So we are very aware at the moment as well that with VAT being imposed on school fees, that's affecting lots of families.
Maybe we should just clarify what that is.
Yes, VAT has been added at, so all schools are being taxed. So school fees are being taxed at 20%. So not all schools are adding 20% on for parents. Most schools, like our school, are reducing fees slightly and then adding a lesser amount to parents. So my school and the GDST schools, for example, are adding 12%, which is a lot less than some competitor schools. However, it is significant for parents. We're very aware that we want to reach as many girls as possible, because that was the founding ethos of the Girls' Day School Trust. Increasingly, we've seen families moving over to the UK or looking for boarding options, looking for alternatives as well. And because we're so passionate about what we've got to offer, and we really believe in the Girls' Day School Trust and the benefits it can have for girls, we are launching a new homestay programme. just for sixth formers, so it's for girls who between 16 and 18 wishing for something a bit different. Boarding is great. Boarding at Royal High School Bath is always going to be an option, but you could come to Brighton, and we've launched this with Oxford High as well. You come to our schools and stay with a host family. So we're working with guardianship agencies, and again, if parents are worried about cost but want access to an amazing education and want those academic results, want that confidence that comes with it as well that I talked about, you can access that for about 30% less than a boarding fee.
Okay.
So the combination of the day school fee plus the guardianship fee is about kind of 2/3 the price, roughly, based on my local market anyway. And again, for that, you get some amazing opportunities. So there's a lot of research out there that suggests that learning a second language, if that's what is the case, in a family environment is a lot more effective. So there might be students that really want to hone their English skills and maybe don't want to be in a boarding environment. Maybe they want the extra freedom. And going back to confidence building, if you're 16, 17, 18, preparing for university, looking for support in whatever pathway you choose, and you come and stay with a host family in the UK, your English is going to be awesome by the time you leave. Your confidence levels will be sky high because you will have had to navigate a city. So if you think about moving to Brighton, you might be staying with a family, you'll be eating around the dinner table with them every night, but you might then have to get the bus to school every day or whatever it is. All of those little mini interactions are really key to building that confidence. So we think it's a really interesting opportunity for families who are looking for something a bit different. I've even spoken to some students, and I was talking to a parent recently actually, whose daughter had actually said, Mum, is a homestay available? And the mum, until she came to our event, hadn't realised that this was an option. Because again, at 16, not everybody wants to be in a boarding environment with all of those rules. You want to be able to flex a bit and, again, find out who you are. Yeah, that's something that we are really keen that families know about. And if anyone wants further information, we're really happy to explore that. And the benefit of being in the Girls' Day School Trust, of course, is that we have a head office in London, Victoria. So we have an immigration manager, we have legal advice, we have safeguarding teams. So we've got that the power that comes with being in a bigger organisation that will give parents a lot of peace of mind if they want to choose that option in terms of sending.
It's a really good additional option, like you say. If they don't want full boarding and they're not living in the UK or they don't have family nearby, then thank you, Rosie. It's been a super interesting conversation. We will put all of the contact details below in the links, and if families would like to come and meet you and come to Brighton and visit the school,
They're very welcome.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.